Speaking of weather, have you heard about this? Statue of Liberty in New York hit by a big lightning bolt on Wednesday. According to the photographer that took this photo, the photos were taken about 6 p.m. Eastern time yesterday from Liberty State Park in New Jersey. Powerful thunderstorm knocked out power to thousands in North New Jersey. Wind gusts reached up to 50 miles an hour during that storm. It's unclear if the Statue of Liberty sustained any major damage.
Well, the shaking captured on numerous home security cameras across parts of New Jersey. A 4.8 magnitude earthquake hit New Jersey and could be felt from Maryland to Massachusetts at about 10:30 local time this morning. You can see people and pets reacting to the tremors. Earthquakes along the Atlantic seaboard are uncommon, but not unheard of.
What the is that? What the hell? We're having an earthquake. Holy f***. What the f***? Did you feel that?
Well, in New York City, residents saying the earthquake left visible signs on the city.
I was just laying in bed and suddenly like it pushed me to the side and I thought, oh my God, bricks.
We felt the floor shake, and I said, what is that? We're not over the subway. And she said, oh, I wonder if it was a quake.
There was no reported damage or service disruptions to the New York City subway system, and no reports of injuries or major damage to any infrastructure.
Women stood in line for 3 hours to make use of it. Schools normally form a spine of protection for children, a place where children can seek humanitarian services and normality. Go ahead. Education is...
Wow. Earthquake.
Is that an earthquake?
Yeah.
Well, education is...
You're making the ground shake.
Education is in many ways... Madam President, am I okay to continue? Education is in many ways life-saving.
Well, now to some breaking news. CBS News has learned that U.S. intelligence believes Iran is preparing a major attack in retaliation for Monday's airstrike by Israel on the Iranian consulate in Damascus. Now, the U.S. has warned Iran in writing not to attack U.S. personnel and facilities. CBS's David Martin is at the Pentagon with these new developments.
Iran's supreme leader held funeral prayers for the Revolutionary Guards killed by an Israeli airstrike, as both the U.S. and Israel braced for a retaliatory attack. U.S. officials tell CBS News Iran is making preparations to launch a swarm of drones and missiles timed around the upcoming end of Ramadan. The target is still unknown, but Israel is reinforcing its air defenses. The ways of retaliating can come from anywhere, including Iran, Israel's defense minister said, and we are preparing to face this matter.
I think Iran will cast about for a relatively vulnerable target, perhaps an embassy somewhere abroad, something like that, maybe a ship at sea.
Retired General and former Mideast Commander Frank McKenzie says Monday's Israeli strike against the Iranian diplomatic compound in the Syrian capital of Damascus was the most significant Israeli attack against Iranians since the war in Gaza began.
It's a very precisely directed strike that took out key leadership, and I think it's hurt them quite a bit.
2 senior generals were among the 7 killed in what Iran considered to be an attack on its sovereign territory. Caught the U.S. as much by surprise as it did Iran, even though it was carried out by an American-built F-35 stealth fighter. The U.S. was quick to disavow any connection.
We were not notified by the Israelis about their strike or the intended target of their strike in Damascus.
Still, Iran has vowed to hold the U.S. as well as Israel accountable, and American troops throughout the Middle East have been put on high alert that they, too, might be attacked in coming days. Nora?
David Martin, thank you very much.
There is growing concern tonight about the continuing spread of the highly contagious bird flu in the U.S. As William Brangham explains, while federal health officials say the risk to humans is low, the virus has now spread to dairy cattle and sickened one person. William?
That's right, Jeff. This strain of bird flu, called H5N1, has been sickening bird flocks across America for a few years now. Millions have been killed to prevent further spread. Yesterday, the country's biggest egg producer halted productions when chickens at one of its facilities got sick. But this virus has also been infecting mammals, most recently dairy cows, in 5 different states. This week, a person in Texas tested positive after working with cattle. He's had mild symptoms and is expected to recover. For more on this virus, we are joined again by Jennifer Nuzzo. She runs the Pandemic Center at Brown University's School of Public Health. Jennifer Nuzzo, so good to have you back on the program. Dr. Mandy Cohen, the head of the CDC, says the risk to humans from this virus is low. They're monitoring it, and there's no reason to worry at this point. Is that where you come down?
So I think it's true that the risk to the general public is quite low. And I think it's also important that we continue to monitor this virus to make sure that doesn't change. The one thing I do quite worry about is the risk to farm workers, people who would be exposed to the sick animals, because we do know that exposure to sick animals can result in human infection. And we've already seen that now to date. In 2 cases in the United States, the most recent one being in a worker that worked with sick cows. So I do worry about protecting farm workers, but for the general public, the risk of contracting this virus is currently low.
Let's talk about that infection. So this was someone who apparently had been working with cattle that had been infected with this bird virus. How should we see that route of infection? Because this does happen every now and then, a widespread infection amongst animals, and it jumps to one human.
Yeah, so we've been tracking this virus for 20 years. And in the last 2 years, I would say, it has become a lot more concerning in terms of the number of species that this virus has shown itself capable of infecting. We've, historically called this a bird flu virus because it has predominantly affected wild birds and domesticated birds. But over the last 2 years, we've really seen the species range that has been affected by this virus grow quite a bit to include mammals. So that's quite alarming. This is also the first time we've seen it in cows. Cows haven't frequently been seen to get influenza A, which is the particular type of influenza virus this one is. So that is also, somewhat new and surprising. But we have in the past seen humans that have had direct contact with sick animals get sick. It doesn't happen all that frequently, but when it does happen, it's quite concerning because in many of these cases, that infection has been quite deadly. Fortunately, in the most recent case, the infection has been quite mild. In fact, the symptoms are a little bit different than what we have typically seen in the past. The sick worker had, conjunctivitis and eye inflammation. And so while we're glad to see a mild infection, we don't yet understand why that is.